Hello, hello, hello. Is anybody in here? Let's wait a minute. Well, welcome to all the people that may be watching this after it has been posted. And this is my talk show, slash whatever you podcast, whatever you want to call it. And we're just going to wait a couple little minutes to see if anybody comes in. So, yeah. For the people that may be in, we're talking about Johnny Manziel on how I feel like what he's going to do with in the Memphis Express and the AAF, what I think he could potentially be, with all the people saying that he's going to be a bust again. Just kind of wanted to go through kind of what his career has been so far, and then we'll just kind of talk about maybe his future with the AAF. So yeah. So can everybody hear me so far? Yeah. So we got 4 people. Thanks, Mr. Cowboy 37. So I guess we'll just start off. So with Johnny Manziel, he was born on December 6th, 1992 in Tyler, Texas. He is 6 foot tall, 207 pounds, and his 40-yard dash was 4.65 seconds. When he was a very, very good quarterback in his high school days. When he broke multiple records in his town. He was just really, really good. And he then, after his senior season, he committed to Texas A&M, where his first season he redshirted. And after that, he went on to play 2 seasons of college football, where he in his 2 years of college, he was 95 for 45, or 545 completions to 863 incompletions, a 68.9 completion rating. He threw for 7,820 yards, 63 total touchdowns, and 23 total interceptions, which is a 164.4 QB rating. And he attempted to rush 340 times for 2,169 yards and 30 touchdowns. So I feel as though he should have went another year of college. It would have probably helped him kind of grow more as a football player and mature. As we see in his NFL days, he was not a very mature quarterback. He liked to party a lot. He got in a lot of trouble. So, yeah. So when he was drafted, the 22nd overall pick to the Cleveland Browns in the 2014 NFL draft. And in his second year of college football, he won the Heisman Trophy, becoming the 5th player in NCAA Division I FBS history. He became the 5th one to pass for 3,000 yards and rush for 1,000 yards. So when he hit that and he won Heisman, he declared for the NFL draft. Many people thought that the Cleveland Browns, they had the 1st overall pick and they had the 22nd overall pick. And many people thought they were going to take him with the 1st overall pick. And, as the draft progressed, he kept on falling and falling and falling until the Cleveland Browns, got him somehow. He was still there at the 22nd overall pick. So they drafted him. And from there, he played. So on the Browns, he was fined in the first preseason game against the Washington Redskins. He was fined $12,000 for flipping off the crowd because, Johnny football type thing. But so that kind of cost him his starting job. They put Brian Hoyer over him for the first 14 weeks, where he was put in week 14 after Brian Hoyer was playing like crap. He was not throwing well. He was a Brown. So in the fourth quarter against the Buffalo Bills, November 30th of 2014, he came in and he threw 5 of 8, 63 yards, and had his first ever career touchdown as an NFL quarterback, which was a 10-yard rush. And after that week 15 was his first ever NFL start, which was against the Cincinnati Bengals. And from there, he the rest of the season, he lost, I think, all the rest of the games that he played, and he threw for 176 yards and 2 interceptions. So his entire NFL stats, up to this point, have been, he has played 15 games, which was over a span of 2 years. He was 147 to 258, a 57 completion percentage. He threw for 1,675 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He was crap. He was kept on getting in a lot of trouble. So the Browns, they cut him. Nobody picked him up the following season. He took 2 years off of football and then was signed to the CFL. He played with 2 teams with the CFL. He played with the Tiger Cats, and he played with the Montreal Alouettes. And he had, mediocre. He played 8 games due to a concussion. He was traded midway through the season. And he was 106 for 165, 1,290 yards, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 7.8 yards on average. He had 29 carries for 215 yards and 7.4 yards average. So with all of that kind of being his background of football so far, he's been traded, or he's been cut by the CFL completely. He violated some terms like he always does. And I mean, he's at 26. He still has plenty of football left in him. And so with how this is going, he has signed with the Memphis Express of the AAF, which is a 3-year deal that is worth up to $250,000. None of it is guaranteed at all. And that's how all the AAF types of contracts are structured. They're structured. You get 3 years. You can opt out at any time, and it's always worth up to $250,000. And it's just on how much, how good you play. So he was cut from the CFL about week 3 of the AAF, and the Memphis Express signed him. And so this week he's been practicing. They said it's a possibility that he could start over Zach Mettenberger, but he's learning the playbook. He has to adapt to the AAF because he's been used to CFL, and AAF is like a whole nother league. But there is, Memphis Express aren't a very good team. Probably one of the more like one of the worst teams in the AAF, next to the Atlanta Legends. And so the rest of the Memphis Express schedule is week 7. They are versus Birmingham. Week 8 versus Orlando. Week 9 at San Antonio, and week 10 versus Atlanta. And this week, against Birmingham, no matter what, I don't see them winning. Johnny Manziel can come in there and do what he wants to do, try to play good football. I don't see him being a top-tier quarterback in the AAF, just with his tendencies off the field. He's had domestic abuse charges against him. He has trouble with partying. He's had to pay multiple fines over the course of his football tenure. So I think that Johnny Manziel will play the rest of this year. Maybe not this week, but at least week 8, 9, and 10. I think the Memphis Express will miss the playoffs. And so then that will give him time in the offseason to prepare for the next season and get him maybe back not to like a college Manziel level, but still a college football, like, regular quarterback level. I think that he could make a good living in the AAF. I think it's a stretch if they think he's going to make it back to the NFL. I'm a big Johnny Manziel fan. That's why I did the show today on Johnny Manziel, is because I'm a big fan of him. I watched him throughout college, and I thought he was going to be an amazing quarterback. And then his off the field issues came into play, and all that other things. And I don't think he'll make it quite back to the NFL. I think he'll play next year for the AAF, maybe the year after that. And I think that might just be it, unless he just performs stellar. And, another thing is, during the NFL and CFL time, he didn't put up the numbers that everybody was hoping he would. And he didn't put in like most of the effort that teams were looking for. So with that, he's had with everything that's gone on, I think that he'll be a mediocre quarterback in the AAF, which in that case, AAF is I'm excited to see where that goes, but I don't think he'll thrive very much in the AAF. So there's that. And so I believe that he'll miss this week versus Birmingham. He'll play against Orlando, he'll play against San Antonio, and he'll play against Atlanta. With those 3 games, I project tops like 300 to 400 yards, somewhere from like 3 to 4 touchdowns against like 4 to 5 interceptions, somewhere in that range. I don't think he's going to do too well this year because, again, he's been on and off with a concussion issue. He had a concussion issue back when he played with Cleveland. He's kind of on and off with concussions, and he's very inconsistent, which I want to see him thrive. I don't want to see him, really just take a dive. But yeah, that's the end of today's podcast. But on Saturday, I'm thinking around 3:00, 4-ish. I'm going to be going for our first full-length podcast. Our topics, I will just tell you guys right now, is who should the Cardinals pick as their number 1 overall draft pick? My top 10 mock draft, like the first top 10 picks, no trades. We're going to talk about the Browns. We're going to talk about free agency. Then we'll talk about the Jags. We'll talk about who won free agency. And then we'll talk about how I think the Patriots will do this season after coming off of that ridiculous Super Bowl victory. Yeah, thank you all for coming out, and have a great night.